From the very beginning, Welcome to Plathville was marketed as something rare in the reality TV universe, a family that seemed untouched by the chaos of modern life. The Plaths were introduced as a picture-perfect clan, 9 children raised on a sprawling Georgia farm, their lives centered around music, faith, and simplicity. To the outside world, they represented purity in its most nostalgic form. Viewers were told this was a family that had chosen a different path, one free from the temptations of soda, secular music, television, and even most technology. And for many Americans watching, it was almost comforting. In a world of broken families and constant distractions, here was a household that seemed united, disciplined, and wholesome. The narrative was clear. This is what family values are supposed to look like. But beneath that carefully constructed image, the first cracks were already showing. The very rules that defined their lifestyle, the bans, the strict codes of behavior, weren't just quirks of a conservative household. They were signals of something much darker, a tightly controlled environment where individuality was suppressed, and obedience wasn't just expected, it was demanded. This wasn't a family simply choosing simplicity. This was a family living under the weight of control. And though the cameras painted it as idyllic, anyone looking closely could sense that trouble was coming. As the Plath children grew older, the cracks in their carefully controlled world began to show, and no one embodied this tension more than Ethan, the eldest son. For years, Ethan had been the model of obedience, following every rule laid out by his parents, Kim and Barry. But like all young adults, curiosity started to creep in. For him, the forbidden wasn't drugs or crime, it was things most of us take for granted. A sip of soda, a love for cars, a fascination with music, outside the narrow boundaries of his parents' approval. These might seem small, harmless indulgences, but in the Plath household, they were acts of defiance. Every soda can cracked open was a rebellion. Every song played that wasn't church-approved was a spark of independence. And for Ethan, those sparks were adding up. Then came Olivia. To Ethan, she wasn't just a partner, she was a lifeline. Olivia introduced him to a world beyond the Plath family rules, encouraging him to question, to explore, and most dangerously of all, to choose for himself. But with Olivia came tension. Kim, the matriarch, saw her not as a daughter-in-law, but as a threat, someone who might unravel the authority she held so tightly over her children. What followed were not just family disagreements, but open battles for control. Ethan, caught between the woman he loved and the family he'd always known, found himself in the center of a storm. And every time he tried to claim even a little piece of freedom, his parents pushed back harder, tightening their grip. As Ethan's quiet rebellions grew louder, the inevitable happened. The tension between his parents and his wife exploded into open conflict. On one side stood Olivia, urging Ethan to step into adulthood, to claim his independence, to leave behind the rules that had defined his childhood. On the other side were Kim and Barry, clinging to their authority, determined to keep Ethan under the same roof of control they had built for all their children. The result? Explosive arguments that no longer stayed behind closed doors. Cameras captured the tears, the shouting, the silence that followed, each moment packaged neatly for the audience. One of the recurring symbols of this clash was Ethan's cars. To him, they weren't just vehicles, they were freedom. A chance to escape, to work with his hands, to find joy in something entirely his own. But to his parents, those cars were distractions, even threats. Fights often played out in or around them, with emotions running so high that viewers could almost feel the suffocating weight of Ethan's struggle. And through it all, Ethan appeared torn, almost childlike at times, pulled back and forth between loyalty to his family and devotion to his wife. He wasn't just making choices about hobbies or lifestyle, he was being forced to choose between love and blood, between his past and his future. But while Ethan wrestled with these deeply personal battles, TLC saw something else. Ratings gold. Every tear, every fight, every emotional breakdown was captured and repackaged as entertainment. What was Ethan's trauma became the audience's drama. After months of suffocating control and relentless conflict, something inside Ethan finally snapped. The boy who had once quietly accepted his parents' rules now stepped forward with a voice that could no longer be ignored. In a tense meeting with TLC producers, he laid it out clearly. I will not participate in this show if Kim and Barry remain involved. The room went silent. Cameras captured every pause, every subtle flicker of fear and surprise. For the first time, Ethan wasn't just a subject of the show. He was the one holding power. His ultimatum wasn't just about family. It was about his life, his identity, and the right to make his own choices without exploitation. This moment shifted the entire dynamic. Kim and Barry's authority, once unquestioned, was challenged not by rebellion alone, but by a professional, existential threat. The conflict escalated beyond the family living room. Now it was a battle with the producers, the network, and the expectations of millions of viewers. Ethan's transformation was palpable. From the quiet, controlled son manipulated for ratings, he had become a decision-maker, a man willing to risk public backlash, familial wrath, and even the dissolution of the show itself for the sake of his autonomy. The ultimatum hit like a lightning strike. Suddenly, the network was trapped in a high-stakes chess game they hadn't anticipated. TLC's executives huddled behind closed doors, caught between two impossible choices. On one hand, siding with Ethan could mean alienating Kim and Barry, the family that had become the face of the brand. Ratings could tumble, contracts could unravel, and the carefully curated image of perfection could crumble. On the other hand, backing the parents meant risking Ethan's departure, along with the sympathy of millions of viewers who had grown attached to his quiet struggle. Public opinion could turn overnight. As insiders whispered about potential spin-offs, show cancellations, or a full rebranding, the tension leaked out. Fans speculated, tabloids ran headlines, and social media erupted with divided loyalties. Every post, every comment, every view became a gauge of which path TLC should take, or whether they were about to lose everything. In the end, the fallout was bigger than a single family. It was a collision of morality, entertainment, and power. A stark reminder that reality TV thrives on conflict, but even networks have to navigate the human consequences of exploitation. And now, the story shifts from the Plath family to you, the audience. With Ethan standing firm and Kim and Barry unyielding, the question hangs in the air: whose side are you on? Every viewer becomes a judge, weighing the costs of control against the desire for independence. Social media buzzes with debates, fan theories, and heated arguments. Comments flood in, likes multiply, and every share becomes a vote in this unspoken trial of morality and entertainment. The show leaves no answers, only questions. Did Ethan make the right choice? Will Kim and Barry ever change? And will TLC survive the fallout, or is this the beginning of the end?